Welcome to the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society podcast with me, Michael McNally. Hi, and welcome to our April podcast. We've got a good show lined up for you with some interesting guests. I hope that you're well and looking forward to this summer. Long days, hot summer nights. Just spare a little thought for me. At the end of the summer, I've just purchased a season ticket for Sunderland. I bought it when they'd had an unbeaten run of 11 matches. And since I bought that ticket, they've had 7 games, lost 5, drawn 2. So it looks like I'm going to be watching First Division football again next season. So spare a thought for me. Anyway, enough said about my sad state of affairs. Let's introduce our first guest. Our first guest is Martin Talbot. He's a fascinating man, historian. He's the coordinator of the City Guides in Newcastle and recently co-hosted a webinar with our own Tony Corcoran about the Tyneside Irish Brigade. Martin, welcome to the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society podcast.
Pleasure to be here.
You do some quite interesting stuff. I mean, I know that you're a coordinator for the City Walks, and you've recently been involved in this webinar about the Tyneside Irish Brigade. Could you just tell us a little bit about the Tyneside Irish Brigade?
So the Tyneside Irish Brigade are a brigade from the First World War, and probably your viewers will be asking, what is a brigade? Well, a brigade is made up of, at the beginning of the First World War, 4 battalions of soldiers, and a battalion has around 1,007 men. It's commanded by a lieutenant colonel, and they're subdivided into companies. So 4 of those together, so over 4,000, come together to make a brigade. And they're all of these battalions are all linked to the Northumberland Fusiliers. They're the 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th Battalion of the Northumberland Fusiliers, but they have that extra identity in the fact that they're called Tyneside Irish. And so that there's that link, there's that affinity, but you didn't have to be Irish to join. And there's lots of communities from around Newcastle and indeed beyond that end up joining. So lots of pit villagers end up joining the Tyneside Irish. So individuals from as far afield as places like Seaham end up joining. That's in County Durham. And as the war progresses and casualties mount, the Northumberland Fusiliers accept transfers into their battalions, including the Tyneside Irish, from places like Manchester and North Yorkshire. So it's really quite a wide variety. So what I would say is that it's neither from Tyneside, nor is it always Irish. But what's really quite good about it is, despite all of that, once you're a member of that battalion or that brigade, you're a part of a community. It didn't matter where you came from, you were a part of something bigger. In each battalion, each believed that they were the better battalion, and within those battalions, each company thought that they were the better company. And there was a lot of rivalry, so that whenever that they were in camps, they had sports events, they had shooting events, and each was competing against one another. But what linked them all together is that they were Tyneside Irish. And through the war, they ended up most famously at the Battle of the Somme, the Battle of Arras in 1917, and through 1918, some of the major battles which ended up resulting in a victory for Britain. And through the course of the war, 7,300 men ended up serving with the Tyneside Irish, and there were nearly 2,000 deaths.
Wow.
So some people were there for the full duration of the war. Others, they came and went. You know, they were transferred in, transferred out, and others, unfortunately, were wounded, and some paid that ultimate sacrifice, 2,000 nearly.
Wow. Were they infantrymen, all of them?
Yes, so they're all infantry, and initially they're all riflemen. But as the war progresses, like other regiments in the British Army, other battalions, they began to become a bit specialist. So so you might have your marksmen who you want to fire rifles, but then you might have individuals who maybe aren't very good at firing rifles. Well, they could be your bombers, your Mills bombers. So the people who aren't very good at hitting a target, well, they can throw the grenades. Right. So the idea is that you're trying to match people to their individual skills. You could have people who are machine gunners, Some people, they just do different roles within the battalion. So it's really quite varied.
I know in your webinar that you did with Tony, you talked a lot about the different ranks in the British Army.
Yes, I did. And that was just a meeting on Zoom, which is, it's now recorded and it's up on the YouTube channel. And it's really quite strange because badges of rank, it sounds a very dull, dry subject. But once you start putting the individuals who held those ranks into the talk, you realize actually how important it is. And as well, 100 years later, over 100 years later, our society, we don't quite understand the army. We don't quite understand how things go. And we don't understand what would be involved for each rank. So I tried to explain, what each individual rank would be doing. And what they might do when they were in the trenches, what they might do when they were in camp, what they might do when they were marching. And you get lots of people who will say, my great-grandfather, he was in the First World War, and they'll tell me he was just a sergeant. Well, when they say he was just a sergeant could be helping to be in charge of up to 50 men. So, it's a huge responsibility. Or they say, oh, he was just a private. But if you were an older private, you could be, your experience could be drawn on other men in the battalion. Younger men might look to you for a bit of leadership. You might have extra responsibilities, maybe just at a sentry post or a guard post, but you play an absolutely key role. Or they'll say, my great-grandfather was a lieutenant. Well, that lieutenant, who might only be in his 20s or possibly younger, is in charge of 50 men.
It's fascinating stuff, the webinar, as you say, is accessible on the web, on the YouTube channel, the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society YouTube channel, which if you subscribe to, you'll get all of the podcasts as well. Another thing, Martin, that you do, that being a city guide, fascinating. I've never been on any of these guided walks, but I have friends who've been involved and they absolutely love it. Tell us about your involvement in that.
Normally, when it's not a pandemic, we have a whole program of over 50 walks every year. And the last year before the pandemic, we took on over 4,000 individuals and we took them around Newcastle, Gateshead, North Tyneside, South Tyneside. We even ventured into Sunderland. It was really breaking grounds. But some of our walks are more for tourists, our highlights walks. But then other ones will be a heritage walk, and we take on a theme. We take on a really interesting idea. So that could be things to do with the railways. It could be things to do with politics. It could be to do with important Newcastle women. Or one of the very popular walks was the Irish walk that we did. We look at the Irish community in Tyneside, more precisely in Newcastle. We look at the religious aspects, the cultural aspects, and we look at the community, which really did grow after the middle of the 19th century, and there was a huge influx from the Irish community at that time, and we see what sort of trades they get involved in, particularly the engineering and railway trades in Newcastle. Initially, they're shut out of a lot of the coal trades, and so they have to get involved in a lot of these new trades.
How do you get to participate in these walks? How, if you've never been involved in them before, how do we find you?
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Newcastle City Guides, or we have a website. Just type into Google Newcastle City Guides, and it's Newcastle Gateshead Initiative. And you'll find out all about these. And we're restarting our program of walks, so that should be really exciting. We're going to be starting walks again in June, and hopefully we'll be able to start interacting with members of the public. And it's a very exciting time, just people trying to get back to normal and to get back to those heritage events.
Thanks again, Martin Talbot. Now, over the past year, I've introduced some talented musicians and performers on this podcast. Our next guest is no exception. She's a composer, actress, musician, plays the piano, the flute, and she's a teacher. Please welcome Jacquelyn Hynes. Absolutely beautiful. Now, I know that this is round about 9 o'clock in the evening, and I know you've been busy. You've been at the Irish Cultural Centre, I believe, in London.
Yeah, well, today I've been I've been recording interviews because I'm doing an oral history project, and in fact, the idea for that came from working at Tyneside Irish Festival, doing
Ah,
a lovely play called Father Casperan, and it was what's called a reminiscence theatre piece with Kappa Pi Theatre Company and Gordon Poe directing.
oh,
And
give Gordon my regards. And I know Gordon from years ago.
yes, and Fiona, of course,
Yes,
as
of
well.
course, and Fiona. Yeah,
Yeah,
fabulous. Yeah, brilliant. Oh, that's
some great
superb.
some great Tyneside actors as well. They interviewed the local pensioners association, and then from those histories took elements of a story and kind of wove it together, so it ended up being sort of everybody's story really. And then my job was to write the music for it. And I have to say the actors were great because the script was changing every day. You know, they did a really good job, and it was really lovely, a lovely piece to be involved in. And ever since then, I've wanted to be involved in something else like that. And then this project really came out of lockdown with the Irish Pensioners Choir in London, and we'd started asking people to record songs and things that meant something to them. And then this idea had been bubbling for a long time to record people's life stories, really. So I've got a way now of doing it over the phone. You've probably got a better way there, Michael, that you could tell me about.
I'm not sure. Technology's not really my strength. I make a fair effort.
Then that's it. So we've been recording some great stories today. A fellow called Justin Doyle, who's a sports writer and now a novelist from Ireland, and Jim O'Hara, who's the ex-chair of the Irish Cultural Centre here.
Now you've got so many strings to your bow. I mean, I've just been looking at some of your videos on YouTube, and I saw you playing the piano, which I didn't expect. Beautifully, really beautiful piano playing. You're a composer, as you've just mentioned. You're teaching. Have you done any directing yet?
I'd love to do some directing. No, I've never done any. I did a little bit at college. I went to Middlesex Poly, but I'd love to do some directing. Yeah. Have you done any directing, Michael?
I have actually, yes, I have, and I really enjoyed it. It's I think every actor, every performer should try and have a go at every area of the production, including stage management, just so they get an appreciation of what people do. But directing is something some people really enjoy and are good at, and others aren't. I quite enjoy it because there's elements of it I really enjoyed, which is sort of motivating people to sort of highlighting the positives and really sort of pointing out things in actors that perhaps they don't realize are their strengths sometimes. That I really enjoyed that side of it. And working on text, new plays particularly, it's just lovely because you're the very first person to have a go at something. That's quite nice, and working with writers. But I really suspect you'll be quite good at it, judging by the stuff I've been looking at and reading. Now, having this wide range of skills, I think in the UK, not so much in America, but in the UK, people like to pigeonhole you as a flautist or a teacher, an actress, whatever. Have you found that a bit of an issue in your career?
Yes. Yeah, if I'm honest, yes, it is an issue. I think people are suspicious. Maybe there's good reasons for that. I mean, I think it's possible to scatter your energies too widely, but on the other hand, I really believe, and you would understand this, I think theatre is a fantastic training ground for any profession, really. And acting taught me a lot about music, and my acting training gave me a lot, I think, in terms of music. That's it's difficult to explain really, but it goes deeper than sometimes I think people maybe, I don't know if there's a distrust of acting and people see acting as pretending or you know and it's not really. I think acting is getting in touch with something real. That's what it is,
Absolutely, it's
really.
about truth, representing truth, isn't it? And
Yeah, representing truth, holding a mirror up to nature, isn't it? And that's that's a really, I don't know, it was a very important part of my life and I loved it, but it felt like the time was right to move. And actually, when I felt like I was stepping sideways off the stage, really. And I'd just done two shows back to back. I'd done The Lost Warrior, which was an Irish themed show written by a writer called Neil Duffield, a great writer based in Bolton. And then I did Wind in the Willows at Oldham Coliseum, and I played the fox and the jailer's daughter, which are really lovely parts. And then the year after that was when I got, actually, with some help from the Equity Benevolent Fund, which gives grants sometimes to help retrain people who've been in the acting profession for 10 years or longer. And I went to Limerick and did my MA. And I was really starting from the ground up, because you're just surrounded by the most incredible Irish musicians who've been playing since they were, knee high. And so I learned a lot. I learned a lot there. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think here you're kind of expected to be pigeonholed, and people are always a bit surprised if you do other things, But I think maybe there's a way of bringing all these things together eventually.
Yeah.
And maybe directing would be involved in that, or a bit of writing, or synthesizing everything, bringing everything together. And maybe this project is part of that. But it's also to do with honoring people's stories as well, and those stories are all going to be archived in the Irish and Britain archive in the London Met. So then the idea is the year afterwards is when we do a creative project with it. So you never know, you might be getting a call.
Oh, fab. It sounds really interesting. And to be working, coming out of lockdown and having a really exciting project like that you're working on at the moment must be so uplifting. What about gigging? Have you got anything lined up?
Oh, well, what it's like. It's difficult. I mean, no, I had some really nice gigs lined up last year, and they've all gone. I was meant to be doing Sidmouth Folk Festival, and then I was doing the Brasenose Festival, which is part of Cropredy Festival, with a band called Folklore, great guys.
Yeah.
And then going to Germany with them, and then I might have been going over to South America, and all of these things aren't happening anymore. So no, I mean, the only gig I've definitely got in the diary so far is Tyneside Irish Festival.
Well, that's the best one of the lot. So
it is. It's something to really look forward to. It's a good one, So
we don't have a lot of time today to chat, which is such a shame. And I really would love you to come back onto the podcast, and so we can actually spend a lot of the podcast talking to you and getting you to play a bit more. And because I'm really interested in your background as well. I know if we just finish off, you showed me just a little while ago some sheet music. Can you just explain what that's about, please?
Oh, yes. So this is, I've been looking at songs from my sort of family songbooks from home. So these are some of them, and I just find them so pretty. And also they were the things which really I loved as a child, and I found myself returning to them. My mother plays the piano by ear. She's a really great natural piano player, and she'd play some of these songs to entertain my father. So yeah, so I've been getting some of those together and performing some of those in lockdown, over some of the Zoom concerts we've been doing with the Irish Cultural Centre's digital series of concerts and things like that. So that's another project on the go.
Listen, I'm going to get you back at some point in the very near future, if that's okay. Thank you for playing so beautifully. And from the northeast, we're sending lots of love to you, and good luck with everything that you're doing. It sounds incredible, the project that you're doing. Good luck with it all, and we look forward to seeing you at our festival. Right, time to introduce a new feature in our podcast. Each month, we'll be featuring Graeme Hutchinson, our resident Irish language teacher, who'll be giving us a valuable Irish language phrase to learn. And at the end of the year, we'll get a big test. Welcome, Graeme. How are you doing?
Hi, Michael. Diolch fi hôl. Tá áthas orm an báile leat, agus tá an áthas orm a bheith an seo anocht.
Wow. Now, I am a little bit lost there, Graeme. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Could you explain what that would mean in Geordie?
Yes. So basically in Geordie, it's hiya, Michael. I'm dead chuffed to be here the night. Essentially, is what
I like
what it means. So I said diolch, which is hello. It literally means God be with you. That is just how in Irish you would say hello. God be with you. There's no sort of particular religious connotations to it. It's just how they say it.
Yeah.
Avihol, which is just Michael, but the Irish name for Michael.
Right.
And then to orchis orm, I'm happy. Boalalat, to meet you.
Right.
Agus and to an orchis orm, I'm very happy. A ve an seo a nocht, to be here tonight.
A ve on shore a nocht.
Exactly, very good. A ve an seo a nocht. Very good.
That's brilliant. Now, this is going to be a regular feature, and I think it's awesome, to be honest with you. You know what it is? There's something about being brought up in the UK and mainland Britain. I think there's I almost felt a bit embarrassed going to foreign countries, Spain, France, Italy, and not being able to speak much of the language and feeling a little bit like there's a reticence to learn languages, an arrogance that English should be the priority language everywhere you go. And as I've got older, I'm really so embarrassed about that. It'd be awesome to learn Irish language. It would be brilliant, I think. And I know a lot of people would be fascinated to have the opportunity, but they probably haven't been aware that there were any classes anywhere. Where can people come to learn?
So I do 4 levels of Irish language with the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society. I do a class for complete beginners, people who have never done any Irish before at all. Then I do a level just above that, which is for people who have done some basic introductory phrases and know a little bit of the basics of the language. And I do one above that, which is people with the sort of who've got to grips with the basics of the language quite comfortably and are ready to start expanding their language a little bit. And then the final class I do is roughly GCSE level, or in the Irish system about sort of leaving certificate, junior certificate, ordinary level in the Irish system. In normal circumstances, it's on a Monday evening at 6:15 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. At the moment, all of the classes are online. But hopefully later in the year that might change. We'll see how things work. And something that I've found is people are often a little bit intimidated about coming to a class and learning a language and speaking up in front of other people, etc. But with Irish, you really do get a really, really wide audience, if you like. There's a really diverse range of people who want to learn Irish, because people learn Irish for lots and lots of different reasons. Unlike French or Spanish, where you might just learn it to go on holiday, for Irish, people learn it in order to reconnect with their ancestry, with their family roots, or possibly you have people from various parts of Ireland who now live in Newcastle or the surrounding area, and the Irish has got a bit rusty, or they've never had the chance to learn it properly. So you really get a very diverse range of people, and I have to say the classes are completely accessible to everybody. You don't need to have learned a language before. It doesn't matter if you're retired, a wee bit older, if you left school at 15 with no qualifications. It makes no difference whatsoever. The classes are open and accessible to everybody for you to take away from them what you want.
That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to seeing you on a more regular basis. And good luck with all the classes. Thanks again to all our guests. Just time for one piece of music before we say goodbye. This is Ryan Murphy and my son, Luke McNally, playing up there in Glasgow. Take care, and we'll see you next month.